Hey, we're cooking with gas here on the Jewcast.
Okay, careful using a phrase like that.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
Tradition!
Oh, shut up, Carl! Shut your goddamn Jew mouth! You people are why there's war in the Middle East!
Gekakken auf ein Jahr.
Nebbig.
Ver poo-poo-poo.
Vermischt.
Verkackt.
Vertutzt.
Verstonken.
Farted.
Exactly.
You're what Grammy Hall would call a real Jew.
Hooray! Again,
I guess it's not so much of a hooray, actually. It's more of like a yay. Straight from quarantine, another episode of American Jew.
Coming at you.
Happy Passover, Jordon.
Yes, a happy Pesach to you, and to you, a Heg Sameach to everybody.
Thanks, yeah. We hope everybody, it was a weird Passover. A lot of people were doing the Seder over Zoom. It's a weird year, you know. Usually we're trying to tell a story of leaving Egypt, and now we're kind of all prisoners. We can't go anywhere. We have plenty of time right now for the bread to rise.
I know, it's like really at the end of the Passover Seder, you're supposed to say, this year we were servants here, but next year we hope to be in Jerusalem. This year we were like, next year we hope to do this in person.
Yeah. Did you do one with your family on Zoom or something?
I did not, but my mom did send me a care package with brisket and homemade matzo ball soup and some charotzes.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was nice. It was pretty good. She sent it via Uber.
That's good. Oh, wow.
So, you know, I wasn't...
That's really nice of your mom.
I wasn't...
Very Jewish mom.
I wasn't waiting for Elijah the prophet this year. I was waiting for Mohammed the Uber driver.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you don't want to let Elijah in your house because he might have coronavirus anyways.
Well, I tell you, actually, I was talking with a good friend of ours, Joey Gay, who I think asked the most important question. That's not, I think it's one of the four, it's the fifth question this year is, do you let Elijah in?
No.
I don't think so either.
Can't let him in.
You leave the wine outside this year, I think.
You know, there were plagues, and it's almost like, you know, America, we're all going through a plague, and the whole world is going through a plague with this virus. You know, a lot of Jewish people aren't handling it well. They're still congregating, and they're spreading it amongst themselves, especially like the ultra-religious. A lot of people think they're just going to put it all in God's hands, but this is serious. A lot of people are dying, and we got to take it, you know, seriously and try to stay indoors and not be in large groups.
That is for sure. It's disappointing to see people still getting together, even for religious ceremonies or funerals or things like that. It's I know it's hard to stay inside and do this shit, but you know we really have to kind of all do it to make sure that we get to celebrate together again at some point.
Yeah, hopefully, you know, this virus has really like changed the world, and who knows what it's going to look like when it's over, like if it's ever over, which I hope it does end soon, because I'm getting pretty cooped up being in quarantine. I'm ready to go out and see other Jews and Gentiles and people of all races.
For real, I'm ready.
And religions.
What have you been doing since you've been cooped up? I mean, did you did a Zoom Seder, you said?
No, I didn't do a Zoom Seder.
Because there were, I mean, I know a lot of people did the Zoom Seders. I saw a lot of, you know, Instagram and Facebook posts about the Zoom Seders with the pictures, and you know, it feels like it was probably easier for a lot of people to sneak off and get stoned in the middle of the Seder.
Well, I guess that's what you were thinking about, Jordon. But yeah, definitely a lot easier just to go off camera and take a hit. But Zoom was, I guess, facilitating it for a lot of people. But I guess it wasn't facilitating it, you know, for so many. A lot of the super religious people, like, they won't use Zoom. They won't use electricity and computers on Passover. So it was, I guess, limited of which Jews could do it. You know, my friend Deborah invited me last night to one, but I just wasn't really in the mood, to be honest. It's super, you know, depressing what's going on. Life is at a standstill. You know, both Jordon and I are stand-up comedians, and I don't know when we're going to be able to get back on stage in front of audiences and perform. It's crazy. I mean, so it's definitely a very weird Passover. I want to make an exodus from my apartment badly.
I feel like this Passover felt definitely more like a Yom Kippur.
I guess.
with
It
more
definitely
food.
did have a downer.
But it's definitely, as Passovers go, I didn't have this night was not as different from the last few nights. I've been sort of reclining and drinking 4 glasses of wine before food most nights.
Okay, well, I guess you're living it up on the quarantine. So the Manish Danah didn't have the effect that it did. But, I ate a little bit of matzah.
I'm out
So
of
I
matzah
guess
now.
that was good. You're out of it. You ate too much already.
I mean, I only had 1 box, and I wasn't able to ration properly.
Oh, well, that's okay. The story, for those who don't know the story of the matzah, the Jews left Egypt after the 10th plague, and they didn't have enough time for the bread to rise. So for Passover, we don't have bread, and we eat the matzah. And the Seder, for those who don't know, is basically a big dinner where we're telling the story of, the Jews leaving Egypt and going through, they went through 10 plagues, and, Moses and his journey that we discussed a lot when we were talking about the Bible portions.
Yeah. Well, no. The Passover Seder is a remembrance of all the hardships that we went through to bring us together today, and we hope that by next year we would be able to do so in the Holy Land. That's sort of what it's all about.
Yeah, hopefully next year we'll just be able to do it at all with,
Yeah.
with people, and life will be a little bit back to normal than, the way it is. But, did you have any Passover traditions, special traditions when you were, celebrating in the past?
Well, my family is so Reform, so we kind of speed through the ceremony most years. We try to we end up making it to the part where we eat soup, and then we kind of we don't always revisit the Haggadah. But
Okay, so after the meal, it's kind of like that. It's done.
usually my family, that's how it was. Yeah, there would always be somebody that tried to get it back on track, but by that time there were too many of us that were drunk and boisterous and laughing, and it's always like that. It's my family's thing. Like one person is trying to be serious, and like 3 other people are making jokes. There's a big peanut gallery at my Seder.
Yeah. Did you drink 4 glasses of wine? That's like what you're supposed to do at the Seder.
Right. Well,
while leaning to the left.
Right. I always joke that Passover is the Jewish drinking game. That it's written in. You have 4 glasses of wine before food comes out. So
yeah.
And my mom has often done the Seder. So it's always a big party usually. You've been at our Seder before.
Last year I was at your Seder. It was a shame to miss it this year.
Yeah, no. Last year was the first annual fight between our housekeeper and her daughter, who were helping.
Yes, it was hilarious. It was very funny in the middle of the Seder. They got in a big fight, and the housekeeper's daughter was screaming profanities, and she ran out of the house. So definitely a Passover to remember.
Yeah, well, apparently, it was a lot. I don't speak a lot of Spanish, but she was cursing. They were cursing at each other in Spanish, and it was it was amusing to the people that
the word puta definitely got thrown around a couple times.
Yeah.
We wish everybody a great Passover. People listening, if the quality of this podcast isn't so great, we are doing it over Skype. We're recording over Skype because I'm in Manhattan and Jordon's in Brooklyn. We're both in quarantine because of the coronavirus. You've been watching some shows. There's some Jewish-related shows going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of, as we're all stuck inside, there's nothing really to do but watch TV and update our Facebook. So, I've been watching some things. You and I both watched the Hunters show on Amazon with Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Where they're hunting
we
Nazis.
We both watched it. He puts together a group to hunt Nazis. They have flashbacks of when they were in the concentration camps and the Holocaust.
What did you think of the show overall? I have to say, I thought it was a really fucking weird show. Didn't really know what kind of tone it was trying to set.
I mean, I found it entertaining. I liked it that it talked about, the Holocaust. Killing Nazis is always a good thing. I feel like that's a cool vibe that I could get behind.
Yeah.
It's, interesting to see that kind of show dramatize the actual scenes from Auschwitz and the Holocaust, but I thought it was done in good taste, and I liked the show. It had a couple interesting twists.
Well, that's the thing. Here's the thing. My qualm with it. I liked the message behind it, and I certainly enjoy watching shows and movies where they show Jews exacting revenge against Nazis. That's always that gives me a bit of a hard on, to be honest with you. But and I do think that it treated a lot of the subject matter very seriously. It definitely had a lot of weight to the stuff with the concentration camp flashbacks. But there were tonal shifts in the way they presented a lot of the storylines that it was so comic booky in certain parts, and they were. It was uneven when they were trying to shoehorn humor in. It felt like, or try to be absurdist about it. I felt like it would have been better had they just stuck to the revenge plot and not tried. You
wanted to have more of a serious tone, but it did kind of, was a little weird and it got a little abstract at moments.
I mean, it's a problem with all of everything now. Like everybody wants to try to fucking be Quentin Tarantino, and not everybody can. And you got to do your own thing. I felt like there were moments of it trying to be something else other than what it was, and that's when it didn't work for me. The parts that worked for me were the parts that were unique, and I thought the performances were great. I didn't think there were any weak links in terms of the performances. I thought even Pacino.
Yeah, Al Pacino.
A lot of people say Pacino kind of like was a little lazy in it, but I thought he was pretty good. I liked Pacino. I love Carol Kane. I thought there were some great.
It's good to see. It's good to see, a Jewish representation on TV and shows about that are for everybody, and bring awareness about the Holocaust, because there are, idiots out there that say it wasn't real, it didn't happen, and the younger generations that don't really know about it. And, as the survivors, unfortunately, are, getting older and passing away, it's good to, to have something like that out there and that represents Jewish people. And it's like we're badass in it. The Jews are badass.
For sure. The other thing that's interesting to me is that I feel like, it's one of those storylines that, it's been fictionalized, obviously, but you wonder whether or not parts of this story, how much of this story is or could be factual in any way, and I think there's the other show that's on HBO, The Plot Against America, that's an alternative reality.
Yeah, that's definitely. Lindbergh beats Roosevelt for Roosevelt's second term. Lindbergh becomes president. Basically, on the platform of Roosevelt, you're voting to go for war, and America doesn't go fight in World War II against the Nazis. They actually kind of have like a relationship with the Nazis. There was only been 4 episodes so far of the show that I've seen. It's an interesting show. I think it's a good show. Again, I like seeing Jewish representation, but it's crazy, how if history turned just a little bit, how life could have been. And, the show shows that just a little bit, of, not solidarity for the Jews and not going to fight for, these people that are getting treated horribly in Europe had an effect in America. And, anti-Semitism kind of spread a little bit or was more acceptable.
Right. I mean, Lindbergh famously was an anti-Semite.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting show. It's on HBO. It's based, on a book. Jordon, you haven't watched it yet, right?
I have not seen it yet, no.
Okay, yeah, it's a novel by Philip Roth. I know they have that show. I haven't watched it either, like The Man in High Castle, which is, I guess, a similar plot or something that we don't win World War II.
Right. Well, the show it's also it's David Chase, the guy that did The Wire, did the show.
Yeah, and Ed Burns.
Right. So and it's got a great cast. I love Winona Ryder. You got to love John Turturro. And,
Turturro's amazing.
David Krumholtz.
Yeah, I was just about to say he's always good, always awesome to see him and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, hey, you're at home in quarantine, nothing to do. Check it out. I don't know, write us something on Instagram or Facebook or send us an email. We appreciate everybody listeing. You can find me on Instagram, Jonathan Randall.
And you can find me on Instagram at BeatNickNudnik. I just want to also say, we are East Coast Jews, and so we're definitely a little bit left-leaning in our politics. I think we've made no secret about who we support politically here and what our politics are. I think we try to be humanistic. Like, have you unfriended people because of their politics or their opinions on some of the stuff that's happening in the White House or things like that?
No, I don't unfollow people. I think, everybody's, welcome to have their own perspective and their own opinions. I might not agree with them, but this is what, America's about. I hope that some of them aren't, filled with hate. Those are the bad ones that come from like a nasty place that want to put down people, based on their religion, their race, their sexuality.
Yeah.
But, I'm not one of those unfrienders.
Yeah, there are definitely trolls on both sides of the aisle here. And I think just like you said, I certainly go out of my way to try to have, debates or intellectual discussions with people that I disagree with, because they are going to show me things or teach me things that I might not be open to looking up on my own. And in some cases, I disagree with them still, and I will have that argument. But I'm not going to, as long as you're not going out of your way to shit on me personally, I don't have a problem with too many people that I have dissent with. Because
everybody's welcome to their own perspective.
No,
it's in the show. It's funny because they are in the Plot Against America. They really are American Jews. That's what they say. They're American. Just because they're Jewish doesn't mean that they're not American. And we feel that way too. That's what this podcast is about. It's about being an American Jew.
Have you read any other Philip Roth stuff? Have you read any of his books?
No.
So I've read a few of his things. He's an interesting writer. His stuff is very of its time as well. He's got a very that time period that he grew up in. That I think is the same period from the Plot Against America.
Okay, around World War II.
Yeah, like he writes a lot about Jews in Brooklyn. So.
Yeah, and they live in Jersey. But hey, they say write what you know. Check out the show. It's on HBO. Have a happy Passover.
Yeah, have a happy Pesach. And we're going to keep cranking these out.
Thanks for listening.